Hi, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. In this reading, I'm going to be looking into the question, what does your crush think of you? Are they attracted to you as well? There are three groups to choose from. Group one is this purple agate. Group two is the orange calcite. And group three is the emerald. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, group one. You chose the purple agate. So let's see, what does your crush think of you? Are they attracted to you as well? Okay, so we'll start with these. We've got stillness, change, and miracles. So there's a sense with the double rainbows here on this miracles card that your crush does recognize that there would be an ability for the two of you to make one another very happy, emotionally speaking. They may consider this to be some kind of like soulmate connection, something that is very much like out of the ordinary. They may look at you as like an out of the ordinary or an extraordinary individual, but it feels like there's a sense of trepidation associated with this. The idea of, if you saw who this person really is beyond the surface level mask or presentation, it's like you come from two different worlds, or who they truly are on the inside is very different from what the world expects them to be. And so there's a sense of almost like it might look good on the surface, but I'm fearful that you would reject who I really am. And so there's a degree of cautiousness with this as well. There's a sense that they see you as like a challenge, or the idea to be with you as a challenge, because it would require them to open up and be vulnerable in a way that they're not comfortable doing, that doesn't come naturally to them, that is not typical, or it's a sense of almost like this facade that they have to maintain, maybe something to do with whatever they do professionally, or how they were raised could have contributed to this, or even kind of wounding or like a fear of being hurt could have led to them putting up a lot of walls around their heart, being very guarded. And there's a sense of almost like that element of themselves doesn't serve like a deep romantic connection. There's a sense that this person may struggle with closeness, struggle with emotional intimacy with others, and there's a sense of feeling almost like that would disappoint you. The way in which they know themselves, they know how they show up, they know kind of in relationships, they know what complaints or criticisms from previous partners have been, to where it's almost like, I'm attracted to you. I think that we could make each other very happy, but it would require me departing from these coping mechanisms, from woundedness, from defensiveness, in order to experience fully the potential between the two of us. And there's almost a sense that if they come across as like calm, cool, and collected, that there's an aspect of like there's still a work in progress within, or a sense of almost fearing that like you'd be disappointed at how much work they still need to do emotionally speaking. That might not even be something that they could directly speak about or tell you about, but that they know their own personal history as far as love and life is concerned, and the ways in which they've systematically disappointed people in terms of like emotional unavailability. This is somebody who kind of is maybe an emotionally avoidant person, and there's a sense of like, that aspect of themselves is not something that would align with what they feel you're worthy of, you're deserving of, or that you tolerate in your life. So it's almost like it's a long shot that all this raw potential would make the two of you happy in like a practical and realistic sense. There is something within them, though, that as much as they've kind of taken, it feels like a defeatist attitude at this point to the idea of something more between the two of you, that there's the sense of like, you've come into their life or come into their reality. You have interactions with one another, or you're aware of each other in the way that you are, because they see you as somebody who's like a catalyst to change, like a motivation to change. Like they've not been able to sort of close off their curiosity about you, or the sense of like a crush that has developed that is more than skin deep. It's more than just finding you like physically pleasing. These are all like deep emotional kind of energies here. So there's something within them that is like stirring, this idea of with stillness of like still waters run deep. There's something deep inside of them, an aspect of them deep within their own shadow that is almost encouraging them to not look away from this situation. That as much as at this present time they might be like, this is hopeless, it's a lost cause, I would only end up disappointing you or hurting you or letting you down, so maybe it's best that we don't even try to embark upon anything together. Despite that very conscious and surface level kind of like negative view that they have about the idea of a connection with you romantically, there's an aspect within them that is like encouraging them to continue to kind of be drawn to you, continue to be curious, even to sort of dive into those depths of pessimism as a way to kind of figure out where they're standing in their own way, a recognition of those shortcomings or those kind of repeated problems that they've contributed to previous relationships. And it's almost like this is not an insurmountable challenge to level up emotionally. If they're emotionally avoidant, it's almost like they keep being brought back to this place of looking and then coming to a standstill, which is progress. As much of a paradox as that might sound like, this doesn't feel like somebody who's eager to like take a leap of faith forward to you, but even them sort of holding their ground, having like a lot of maybe negative self-talk, or you almost like you triggered both the inner critic within this person, but then some degree of like embedded hopefulness within that, okay, this has been kind of the narrative that they've been telling themselves, or that their life experience has told them about who they are, their worthiness for like love and partnership, or the types of partners that they've chosen or that would choose them, or like the best relationships they're capable of cultivating. That there's something more out there, and it requires them to kind of get out of their own way and dive in deep to just sort of hold their ground, to not fully run away, even if they're not ready to like take a leap of faith forward. It's almost like this person is recognizing there's some kind of growth, some kind of change, some kind of evolution that's taking place even within this almost like stubborn energy, where it's like, I sense that we can make each other very happy. We might be that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for one another that we've each been looking for in vain in our lives. And yet there's this aspect of darkness here of sort of like, well, I don't think the reality of me would match up to who you might think I am or what you're worthy and deserving of. But beyond all of that kind of negative self-talk, there's like a hopefulness. There's something which says, keep going, sit within that, feel those feelings. And it's almost like there's a lightness which is happening within them that might be very like triggering. They may be very like intrigued by you, but also very triggered, because you're almost like, your personal magnetism, who you are as a person, the vibe that you give off, how they feel inside, it's coaxing them beyond this kind of limited or sort of damaged belief that they have about themselves. So it's almost like you incentivize this person to look at these uncomfortable truths at face value within themselves, and beyond just accepting these things or acknowledging these things, it's almost like pulling them up into a higher version of themselves that is beyond living in this kind of shadow energy. So let's get a few more cards and dive in a little deeper and see what else your crush thinks of you, and are they attracted to you? Okay, we have winter solstice, reflection, fog, veiled, and dragonfly, emergence. So there's a sense with this veiled energy that your crush perceives you as somebody who's off limits. You're like a forbidden fruit to them, and it goes beyond just circumstances in the material world that would be challenging or like obstacles in the situation. There's something about kind of their current emotional state, like a frozen energy. They're frozen within the heart space. This may be somebody who has lost the belief in love. They may have come up with some kind of narrative about, the most that they could hope for or expect is something by way of like shared chemistry, and then you just kind of make it work with the other person. Very like transactional sort of relationships, things that make sense on paper, and sort of love is either, you learn to love each other eventually, or there's caring or affection for one another. But this is somebody that feels like who's their belief in like love or true love has been shattered somewhere along the line in their past, and they just sort of shut in all that hurt, all that disappointment. They may be living very much in the ego and have been for quite some time. And there's a sense of they see you as somebody who, you may have had your ups and downs in life and love. You might have had your challenges, but you don't wear that grief so close to the surface. You've transcended, you've evolved, you haven't become embittered. You've used whatever wreckage your past has provided you as motivation or incentive to become a more loving person, or almost like to remain very loving in spite of the things that tried to break you or did break you, and you needed to like recreate yourself in some manner. To where there's an aspect about you're like a forbidden fruit to this person. You're off limits because it requires them to relinquish their hold on all of this hurt, all of this kind of pessimism. It requires a beginner's mindset in order to experience the fullness of what is possible. This is somebody that almost feels like they couldn't approach you just for like a situationship or a fling. This couldn't just be a sexual connection. This couldn't just be friends with benefits. This is almost like if I take a step towards you, and even if we started off as that, if it started off as a hookup, if it started off as just something casual, I couldn't help but fall in love with you. And that's both alluring and terrifying. And so there's a sense that they, again, like feel the need to kind of keep a cautious distance. Maybe even their higher self saying, if you want to move towards this person, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to work for it. Not just in terms of like earning your trust or, finding the courage to kind of speak their truth, but something inside of them that has to kind of release this hardness of heart. And that may be why they kind of like see you as some sort of a soulmate, or you've triggered something within. It feels like they go through times of being like deeply frustrated, almost like aggressively so, kind of like, why did you have to come into my reality? Why did I have to catch sight of you? Why do you have to be you? And I've taken notice of that, and now I can't ignore it. Now I can't look away. And then times where it's almost like they soften into more of this like flow space where they're finding themselves thinking of possibilities about self-talk or about what can develop between the two of you potentially that is outside of the range of what they've allowed themselves to focus on or believe is possible or strive toward in romance in quite some time. There's a sense that they feel like you could not just bring me back to life, but you could help me to transform into the version of myself that I should be. That maybe this path of pain up to this point in time has all been laying the groundwork for like the greatest comeback ever. Not in terms of like worldly success and opulence, but in terms of a person that chooses to believe in love again, or softens emotionally speaking, and discontinues the narrative of like good things only ever fall apart, into an understanding of I'm worthy and deserving of my happily ever after in an all-encompassing sense here and now in this lifetime. They see you as somebody who's almost like a teacher or a guide. And this may have to do with like things you could post on social media, or things that like you talk about, interests that you have that in some way have changed this person's perspective about the world, perspective about how they've been like spending their time filling void spaces within, things that you're kind of like interested in or enthusiastic about, and how that enthusiasm may be very contagious. This person feels like lighter after having spent time in your presence, or even like observing you from afar. There's a sense of like a very obvious kind of energetic reaction within them, which is it's very pleasing. It's almost like your energy illuminates that as much as they may feel kind of empty inside, that there's still hope. And so there's a sense of like not feeling worthy of you as well. You're this forbidden fruit because the version of them that they are, beyond the surface level mask, beyond whatever you are aware of them or you know of them at this point, like what exists inside, who they really are behind closed doors, their true face at this point that the world doesn't see, that only they are aware of. It's like that is insufficient to match even your surface level persona. And there's a sense of almost like if you are having such a powerful effect upon them, and maybe even upon like other people are better after spending time with you. Their lightness, there's a sense of you shift the energy of any room you walk into in a very positive way, that there's a sense of they're jumping to the conclusion that what exists beyond that persona is even more beautiful, is even more radiant, is even more truthful, inspiring, pure, and refined. And so there's a sense of, again, like you shine a light on a pathway that this person has been afraid to walk down inside of themselves, and that they are aware is kind of, that's the gatekeeper between just sitting in this like triggered energy of, I want to come towards you and experience what the two of us combining our energies, combining forces would be like, actually and emotionally. And I'm terrified of what I have to leave behind in terms of emotional wreckage, emotional baggage, coping mechanisms, a tendency towards avoidance. I'm afraid of having to leave that behind in order to show up and be present, be consistent, even when I'm afraid, even when it doesn't make sense, even when I feel disempowered. Because all I've ever known is hiding and inauthenticity, and yet you demand truth. And there's a sense of they want that, and yet they're afraid of like the price they would have to pay. Who are they beyond those coping mechanisms? This is almost somebody that understands subconsciously they would have to go through a dark night of the soul in order to truly be received by you, truly co-create with you, and something more than just kind of like a circumstance that would end in mutual disappointment. And so it's somebody that it's almost like they kind of feel like, I got to keep my distance because I'm not good enough for you. Emotionally, I'm not good enough for you. I can sense that. It's written all over the way you live your life, how you are with them, or how they see you with other people, that it's like they know who they are inside. And there's a sense of almost like, I don't want you to see that. I wouldn't want to subject you to that. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. And then I'll move on into some message cards from their higher self. Okay, we have High Priestess, harness mystic power. And She-Wolf, unleash the wild within. So this is some encouragement for you to continue to sit in a very like receptive, open-minded and like open energetic space as far as this person is concerned, because it feels like even if they play nonchalant, or again like their coping mechanism is to just kind of play it cool and be very shut off, which may at times there could be almost like warmth that sort of leaks through, and it may sort of spark some hope or potential within you, and then they go cold or they're very aloof, and so you might be like, okay, are they interested, are they not, is this just like one-sided, what's going on here? There's a sense of almost like you continuing to stand in your authenticity, continuing to live your truth, continuing to focus on your heart-centered reality, you've captivated their attention, even when they pretend that they're not looking. And so if there is something more to happen in this situation, it doesn't come from an energy of you confronting the elephant in the room, you pursuing this person. This is pure energy of like, you're supposed to be in receptive mode. You standing in your personal power sets the tone or the template energetically, emotionally, and actually for this person to have almost like a roadmap for these are the kind of things I need to do, or some vibe that I need to cultivate within myself, not just momentarily, but in a consistent manner, in order to be able to rise to the occasion to crack open this potential with this individual and experience the sweetness of what's possible. So this is like the essence of you just continue to do you and trust that they've picked up on your scent. They've honed in on your beacon. And it's something which at this point they're very challenged inside by it. It's almost like they're having some kind of like crisis of faith, existential crisis, sort of like resisting the pull of this energy, and at the same point in time succumbing to it. And so it almost feels to be something where there could be some evolutions within this, not for everyone, because again, this involves somebody that would have to kind of rewrite the nature of their own subconscious programming, but they're aware of that. They're aware of kind of like you represent the possibility of something totally opposite of what they've known in terms of life, in terms of love, in terms of romance. And there's a sense that if they don't do some kind of work within and approach you and kind of speak their truth, you'll always be a person that they would wonder, like, what would have happened if I had gotten out of my own way, listened to my heart, done some emotional healing or work to transcend like that state of woundedness. What would life have been like if I'd taken a chance in that direction? That you would like haunt this person for the rest of their days, or this circumstance, that you're very unforgettable. And so, you're in the position, like you're in your proper position within this, where it's like you've acknowledged affection, you've acknowledged the crush within yourself. But in order for something more to happen, this is almost like their task. It's their test. Can you rise to the occasion to experience something that can transcend the ordinary and everything you've known? Or do you choose to stay stagnant, and your companion then is that hovering question of what if? So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say, be patient with me, please. Yeah, so that can indicate that for some of you, this is somebody that even though they're very frustrated, even though they're feeling very challenged or very confronted by the possibilities for the future between the two of you, their feelings that there's a sense of they can't just look away, they're not looking away, even when they pretend to kind of focus their attentions elsewhere, you're on their mind, they're getting like pulled back in your direction, not just because it could be a very beautiful, like physical connection between the two of you, but there's a sense of almost like you represent a doorway through which they would step into a more loving version of themselves. So it's almost like their higher self or their soul kind of coaxing them to take a chance, to take a leap of faith, to do the work that's necessary in order to let go of the expectation of negativity as far as love and romance, that, to sort of like sit in that energy of the other side of the coin of maybe good things can happen to me. Maybe this doesn't have to be a circumstance that ends up like everything else. Maybe it can be loved and accepted for who I am beyond what I project to the world for the world's benefit. They also say, I'm trying to figure things out. Yes, you're heavily on this person's mind. They've definitely, got a crush as well. They think highly of you, and there's a sense of almost like, I don't want to bring my wounded energy in and disturb your presence, disturb your light, disturb your inner peace. So it's almost like an energy of sort of the chivalrous thing to do is to just kind of remain on the sidelines and kind of wrestling this aspect of themselves that is telling themselves like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy of love, I would only disappoint this person, hurt this person, or it would end up like every other kind of broken situation. So it's best to just kind of keep those feelings to myself. They're trying to push beyond that and move beyond that. And you also say, I thought about reaching out, but I don't know what to say. Yeah, so at this point in time, it's almost like they're a work in progress within. They're kind of embarrassed to show that to you or to, be vulnerable. There's a sense of they can't just be nonchalant. They feel that to, approach you in a romantic sense, it's going to take something that is kind of out of the ordinary or next level, because you're deserving of something so much more than just a generic opening line or the best foot forward that they feel they would need to kind of place in order to step towards you is something that is outside of the boundaries of kind of how they normally enter into like romantic or even sort of physical or like sexual connections with others. It's almost like even if they lead with that kind of sexual energy, or just kind of like a platonic energy, there's an understanding of I need to be open in the heart space for whatever can develop in this situation. And they don't feel like they're at that place within themselves at this time, but there's a sense of you definitely stirred or awakened something that is causing them to look in the direction of how can I get ready for that though. So let's get some initials. Can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got I, L, D, P, B, W, W, X, H, L, J, K, U, M, C, F, N, A, and R. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the orange calcite. So let's see, how does your crush think of you, and are they attracted to you as well? Okay, we have focus, openness, and flow. So there's a sense here that this person feels that you are very mysterious, very mystical, very tapped in, very tuned in to your intuition, to your higher guidance. They may feel that you are somebody who's very purpose-driven, like a person on a mission, or that you're working towards something that is beyond anything you've even kind of made others aware of. They see you as somebody that is kind of, you've got a lot of potential. You're destined to kind of make an impact on the world around you or the lives of people around you. And there's a sense of almost like they can't help but to like look at you in awe, look at you in a sense of wonder, in a way that might almost have sparked some questions within about like how they themselves have been just sort of sleepwalking through their life. You may have sparked change already within this person in terms of what they're spending time on in their life. In reality, they may be in the process of like cutting out a lot of frivolous things, a lot of distractions, starting to kind of dive in deeper, like what's the meaning of my life? What's the point of my life? What have I been pursuing and chasing? And does any of that really matter? Am I just serving the needs of my creature comforts? Or am I living a life that I'm proud of, that I can look back and say I used the time that I was given in this life well? Am I living a life that like my kids would look at and say, I'm proud of what my parent had done? Am I being a positive force of change in the world, or am I just very like self-serving? So this is somebody that it feels like they almost see you as like a deep person, where even with surface level like connections, there's a sense of like there are deep waters, unexplored, uncharted waters within you that almost, you're not somebody that's for the faint of heart, that it requires a degree of courage in order to enter into kind of the more intimate layers of your life, that you're very good at keeping personal boundaries. You're excellent in the ways in which you demonstrate self-love, which is something again that kind of has caused them to sort of inventory their own life. What are the ways in which I'm giving draining people too much access to my reality? Why are certain people kind of allowed the privilege of time spent in my company? How can I serve my own needs better in order to be able to kind of be a positive experience for others in my life, or others that I encounter or cross paths with, where there's a sense of like they've never met anyone like you, and the idea of romance with you, it's almost like you could teach them so much, both about what it means to give romantically to another person and what it would mean to receive romantically. They're a bit intimidated, a bit challenged by that, but there's almost a level of excitement of just kind of like, this would be the experience of a lifetime. Even if it was a very like seasonal or temporary connection, there's a sense of it would set the tone or raise the bar and standard for types of relationships they've had, qualities that they've been searching for within other people. It's something that they didn't know that a person this deep or a person this mysterious could exist, and that wouldn't just elicit a sense of fear or nervousness. Because they have respect for you, but there's also the sense of they understand that your intuition or your discernment is so on point that you don't tolerate nonsense. You give off that vibe, even if you're a very like warm, open, and friendly person, that there's a sense of like, I wouldn't want to be on your bad side. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of your intuition signaling something was off. I wouldn't want to be cut out of your life. I wouldn't want to be part of that collection of people that has lost access to you. So there's almost a sense of feeling like to move towards you, to come in closer. It's almost like they see that there's like steps or layers. You don't easily give your trust. You might be friendly, but it's like to really be close to you, they're seeing it through their observations that you may have like acquaintances or people that you interact with, but there's aspects of almost like people don't really know you. People don't take the time to kind of learn you or have an awareness that there is so much more to you than meets the eye. That it would take work in order to kind of come into that inner sanctum, and that it's almost a holy place. It's a privilege to be close, to be considered like a close friend, a confidant. There's a sense that they would love to be your confidant. You may be a shoulder for a lot of people to cry on. They may notice that like people open up to you. You could be an empath. They may consider you to be an empath, or if they're not kind of like aware of that terminology, they almost feel like you represent like a safe space for a lot of people. People are just drawn to you. You just have this quality about you that puts other people at ease. And there's a sense of, they think about, do you have anyone that performs that function for you in your life? Is there anyone in your life and your reality that takes the time to create a safe enough space that you can let your guard down? That you can speak about your concerns or fears or worries or problems to in a non-judgmental way? Do you have that same kind of safe space in your life, to where this is somebody that it feels like they almost like don't want to mishandle you, They feel that as it exists at this point, like in a crush situation, there's like one window of opportunity, and they have to approach honestly, like you live by your intuition or you follow that in some way, and there's almost a sense of they need to do that as well in order to like transcend the sort of like crush energy into the exploration even of like a friendship or a deeper friendship. There's even the sense of like time they may have spent with you. There could have been a lot of like signs and synchronicities, things that have come through in like downloads or visions or dreams that have signaled to them, this is an exceptional person. This is somebody that the universe is very protective over. This is somebody that isn't to be taken advantage of, isn't to be taken for granted. This is almost like access into a transcendent kind of space. That time spent in this person's company is a privilege. And that this person can lead you home to yourself. They may see you as somebody very wise, and they learn a lot from you. It feels like they study you. They definitely could be like watching from afar, like watching from the shadows, secret admirer energy. They're reading between the lines of the things you say, the conversations that you have. This is almost somebody who may be kind of like, there may be a bit of obsession going on. Because there's such an element of mystery to you that it's almost like I can't approach in a casual way. Because there's something about this person that is otherworldly, or what they hold inside, the energy, the love they have inside. It's not of this realm. It's not something that is just to be taken lightly or to be misused in some sort of way. There's like a sacredness to you. There's like an aura or like a glow about you that they feel is very rare and precious. But it calls them in further. It's like your energy calls to this person. They may feel your energy around them. Again, like a lot happening in terms of like dreams, downloads, thinking about you a lot at night. Behind closed doors, nobody's around, kind of like things that you've said, things that you're interested in. You may have opened a lot of different rabbit holes for this person that they've explored things. They're expanding their spiritual knowledge. They're thinking more deeply about kind of like, what is it about this person that is so different? Because on the surface you may just present as like an ordinary person, or there may be things that are a bit eccentric or eclectic about you. Whatever, however your kind of surface level presentation is in the world, there's a sense of like this person feels your energy. They're reading that. You may have clued this person into the idea of like an empath or energy or vibes. This is something where you've almost like, you've opened this person up to like a whole new world of perceptions. And so they're kind of doing this dance simultaneously between this like allure towards you and almost like learning different things about themselves, or more of the subtle layers of reality, to where it's almost like even to come in closer and sort of have like a deeper friendship, or to develop a friendship with you, it would be more than just small talk. It would be more than just talking about current events or, you know, kind of day-to-day activities. There's a sense of quickly it would get into like deep subjects, esoteric subjects, things out of the ordinary that they just wouldn't be able to help kind of opening up to you, exploring these things. They're very curious about like how your mind works, what your feelings are about certain things. Like they want to know more about you than just surface level qualities. They want to know kind of what motivates you. What are you passionate about? So let's dig a little bit deeper into this and see what they think of you, and are they attracted to you as well? Okay, we have fairies, earth magic, ancestors, generations, and dawn, new beginnings. So this is funny with this ancestors card. I was hearing, I can take you home to meet mother. So it feels like this is something where they may be used to kind of like people in their life disapproving of like partners that they've chosen in the past, but there's something about you, even if it's kind of like an opposites attract situation, that like you're such a warm, authentic, good person, like a nice person, even when you have boundaries, like there's a kindness about you that this person, almost your crush, is almost like, I think that you'd be somebody that people in my life, that no one's ever good enough, nobody ever matches up to kind of who they want me to be with, or the type of partner that they've kind of envisioned for me. You could win these people over. You're very charming. You're very easy to talk to. They see you as somebody who's very adaptable. You make all different kinds of people feel comfortable in your presence. And there's a sense of, you have a lot of these kind of subtle qualities within that almost like people, for this person growing up, had told them, don't look so much for the surface level qualities, seek these other things out. Like that's the glue that's going to hold like a marriage together during rough times, or these are the qualities that will be important after like the honeymoon phase, or the newness of a connection sort of wears off. They see you as having those aspects. That is like a very big green light for them, as far as progressing forward, exploring this potential between the two of you further. Again, there's that energy of seeing you as very otherworldly, very mystical, somebody who's almost like in the world but not of it. They're very intrigued by how you live your life. They're very intrigued about what could their life become, having somebody like you as their partner, having somebody like you, even if you went out on a few dates and maybe it didn't work, but then it's like, you just decided to be friends, like having someone like you as a friend, or a closer friend. If they're kind of like an acquaintance at this point in time, it's almost like, what would it be to like get in deeper into our friendship even? What would that be like? It's almost like you bring a lot of positive qualities and attributes to them. There's a sense of almost like, what would it be like to be protected by your love, to be somebody that you would say, I love this person. This is part of like my inner circle. This is among the people that mean the most or matter the most. Out of all the random people that are encountered, this is one of those meaningful people. There's a sense of like, that would be a privilege. That would be an honor to be loved by you. They see you as somebody that they could have a very different experience in romance with, as compared to, this may be somebody who falls in love with people's potential and is often let down by the reality of who people are. But there's a sense of almost like, and that could be why they're sort of just drawn in and very curious and wanting to like, not just kind of study and get to know you, but like things that you're interested in, things you talk about, it's almost like, let me look into those things that they don't understand, or that they have no kind of like history or experience with. It's almost like, I want to be as well informed or educated as possible, so that I like know what I'd be getting into, so that I don't come in just with the energy of like a novice, or kind of like a full blank slate. That's sort of, certain things have really intrigued them. It's not just kind of, let me mirror your interests and kind of win you over in that sense. It's almost like things that you've kind of, that you're fascinated with, or you focus on, or that are very central to you, that they're able to kind of perceive. There's a sense of almost like, I found truth for myself within those things. This is a perspective I never looked at life from before. These were ideas or types of people or communities I didn't even know existed. And it's not just, I've become informed of something other than what I knew, but it's almost like, you're helping to introduce this person to parts of themselves that had no voice before. They had no way to explain that before. They didn't even know that was necessarily like an element or an aspect of themselves. And so it's almost like, just in the nature of the dealings they've had with you, even if it's like just observing and kind of fleeting sort of interactions with one another. It's like you've held up a mirror to parts of themselves they didn't even know existed within, and it's very positive. It's like somebody who's filled with a lot of excitement at the idea of taking steps to do something more in this situation. This feels like somebody who's kind of like in the process of sort of exploring or expanding their mind or their perceptions in some sort of way, but they don't just want to like linger on the sidelines of your life. It's almost like, let me rise to the occasion to meet you. Maybe even kind of some sort of a shared interest that was like your interest, and now they become genuinely very interested in that. It's almost like that might be a good sort of touchstone upon which getting to know one another further, or like developing a connection with one another further, that's a very good starting point. And to have that element, almost like a spiritual aspect, as part of the potential of a romance between the two of you that could develop further down the road, it's almost like I've never known that that was possible with other people. Even if it's like a spiritual or religious person, it's almost like that wasn't a central aspect or like a dominant aspect within previous romances, but it's almost like with you, it couldn't help but be part of like that equation. Like they may see you as a very spiritual person, and so it's like that just comes with the territory of being involved with you. And so it's almost something that's like not for the faint of heart. It's not for, you know, people that are just very surface level. And so there's almost like a depth that is required, like matching that depth, not being afraid to kind of dive in deep, ask certain question of self and others that they find to be they're very curious, like what would that element combined with like love and romance and chemistry and physical attraction and just all the like mundane and ordinary aspects of like people who are dating or people in a relationship, to introduce that spiritual component within a romantic connection. It's like they've never had that before with anyone. They've never been with anyone that had that kind of depth, understanding, or curiosity. And so you're very outside of the box of what they are used to. But rather than being fearful of that, it's almost like there's a reverence towards that and a motivation to prepare themselves to explore something more with you. So let's get some guidance about the situation, and then I'll move on into some message cards from their higher self. Okay, we have Shapeshifter, transform and unveil your gifts. And Oracle, wait for important information. So you may have had like a motivation, or you might have like asked for guidance and confirmation to in some way expand the nature of how you connect with this person. So maybe this is like you start a one-on-one conversation if they're just kind of the face in the crowd, or you know, if it's kind of somebody that you know just on a surface level, maybe to start to kind of build in the direction of like a deeper friendship. Or even for some of you, this could involve like you making that first move and asking them out. It feels like this person already likes the fact that you march to the beat of your own drum, and for most of you wouldn't necessarily think that it would be too forward if you were to make the first move. There's almost a sense of kind of like this person's body language, their eye contact, things that they already might have kind of hinted at with you. If you feel the inclination to kind of express yourself, or, you know, to put your feelers out there as far as giving them the signal that like, hey, you know, I'm interested in you. I'm interested in getting to know you more, or getting to know you in a different kind of way. It feels like they'd be very receptive to that, and are almost kind of wanting to match you in that sense, wanting to kind of like, is it safe to proceed? Is it safe to kind of approach you in some sort of way? So again, maybe something that kind of gives this person like a clearer indicator of your interest in them. It feels like at this point in time, or whenever it kind of feels right, in the relatively speaking, like near future, it feels like that would be a very good way to kind of nudge the situation forward beyond this energy of just sitting in place and wondering. like they're eager inside to experience something more, but they are respecting you enough of like not wanting to cross any boundaries with you, or kind of make you uncomfortable in any sort of way. So something that would almost just be like a subtle invitation, like a knock on that door that says, hey, I'm open to something more if you are. Then that kind of gives them the opportunity to kind of move beyond just this energy of like fascination into a place of like, okay, let's explore the potential of this in real time. Let's get out of our heads and kind of in a 3D sense see what's it really like when we're spending more time with one another. What's it really like to go out on a date with one another? Is there something that this raw potential can be developed into, as far as like a deeply satisfying friendship, or the beginnings of like a deeply satisfying romantic partnership? So let's see what they want you to know from their higher self. Okay, and they say, I just want to go back in time. So there may have been a moment where they were getting ready to ask you out, wanting to like speak to you. Maybe you did have some kind of conversation. There was like a misunderstanding, almost like they stuttered, or the words didn't come out right. It might have created a lot of awkwardness, maybe even silence between the two of you, or just a sense of kind of like, I wish I'd handled that different. It didn't unfold the way that I wanted it to, or like I thought it would. And so there's a sense of almost wanting to try like a different approach with you, or kind of make up for almost like the time that has gone by where they've been very like curious and fixated on you for a while, but there's a sense of almost like hesitating, like not taking action, or not coming out very effectively, which can kind of lean into this place of you maybe needing to give them some kind of nudge or signal that lets them know, hey, I'm interested, and then they can kind of step up to the plate, and sort of course correct anywhere that they may have kind of deviated from more of like a blossoming in the situation already. They also say, we will be together again. So it feels like this person really looks forward to times when they're able to interact with you, see you, like content you post online. They look forward to that. They anticipate that very eagerly. There's a sense of wanting to get to know you more, wanting to spend time in your presence. And they also say, I'm working on myself. Yeah, so that is somebody that has definitely, their eyes have been open, their perceptions have been changed. They're very drawn to you. You're very mysterious, and this has kind of whetted their curiosity as far as a mystery that should be solved, that they would like to, be a part of this kind of otherworldly energy, the otherworldly experience, which is you. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got Q, W, C, D, I, A, B, Z, M, E, F, L, B, R, Y, A, S, and R. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the emerald. So let's see. What does your crush think of you, and are they attracted to you as well? Okay, we have trust, success, and power. So this is an energy here of this person does sense a very powerful connection between the two of you. Somebody where it's almost like you've activated the hunter within this person, some kind of like primal animal instinct that is very responsive to you. They see you as somebody with a lot of personal magnetism. They're very drawn to your sensuality, almost like a creative kundalini sexual energy that you have learned to harness and kind of utilize to create abundance for yourself. They may see you as like a master manifester, or that you're just able to attract to you the right people, places, and circumstances that honor and celebrate you, that uplift you in some sort of way. They may see you as like an alchemist. You've taken a lot of pain or disappointment in your life, obstacles and challenges, and you've created silver linings out of those things. You've kind of bloomed where you've been planted in your life. So this may have been somebody who's been aware of you for a while, been in your life for a while. There's a sense of almost like you improve with age, you improve with time. This could be somebody that was kind of aloof at first, didn't see your full potential in the past, but it's almost like you've come into your own. So something as far as like a glow up, anything you've been working on as far as like abundance mindset, or shifting your focus towards creating that best life for yourself in the here and now, this person has definitely picked up on that, and it's resonated with something very primal inside of them, where they are attracted to you on a physical level, but it's almost like, I'm hearing, I've got to have that. Like there's a hunger towards you at this particular point in time, that speaks to kind of not just the current version of them, or even you, but it's kind of almost a future version of them, kind of who they are meant to step into or evolve into has kind of honed in on you. And so it's kind of like it's pulling this person out of almost like an energy of stagnancy or a passivity. They may have been occupying a very passive energy up to this point in time that could have to do with like disappointments in love and life, any kind of rut they've been in their life in general. This is almost somebody who's trying to like, I'm hearing primp themselves, like get themselves ready. They may be in the process of kind of like taking on some kind of new like health routine, like health and fitness, expanding like their mind or their intellect in some sort of way, trying to get like finances, business together, like changes in their lifestyle, because there's a sense of like, I want to impress you. I want to be able to kind of show myself off to you, like a better version of self, or something that is kind of like shaken off a stagnancy that had just kind of settled in. This is somebody who may have just gone for like easy connections, or, you know, just sort of went through the motions of their life and chose the easy route for a while, or maybe historically. And there's a sense of like, you have supercharged this person, some aspect within you that has kind of risen to the occasion, that is motivating them to kind of get up and move beyond their comfort zone, get up and really kind of pursue you, it feels like, other things in their life that might have just been, this could be somebody who has a habit of kind of just watching things pass them by. They may have kind of gone for things in their past and were defeated, were thwarted, or, you know, had experienced disappointment or substantial losses, like as far as career, finance, or even like love connections in the past, that just sort of led them to kind of choose shallow things, or like the safe and narrow path in general, that kind of they were just going through the motions and getting by. But there's a sense of like they're wanting to pull out all the stops to either impress you, or to win you over, or to in some way kind of seduce you, or like bring you into their life in a more obvious kind of manner. They see you as somebody that is almost like a victory or a conquest, but the big victory and conquest would then be them rising to the occasion of being able to kind of match your energy, match the direction of your focus, to be able to kind of sustain a higher vibration that they have seen that you've cultivated inside of yourself, that it's kind of like earning the privilege to sort of walk with you into the future, that wouldn't be accomplished through like trickery or manipulation, but it's like I actually have to evolve in order to be able to be an adequate contender for this person's heart. This may be somebody that is very jealous of like other people giving you attention. They may feel very territorial towards you, which could be very confusing for them since it's just a crush situation. Like you're not even in a relationship, and yet there's a sense of like, you're mine, I'm yours, we should be with one another. That it feels like they're not wanting to sit in the energy too long of like, but what does that mean? Why would I be thinking that? They're taking that as like a cue or a sign that some kind of race has begun. They're not wanting this to be like a marathon to come to the place of like announcing feelings or interest towards you, but it's almost like I've got to sprint in order to meet this person. I better get up and act quickly because this is like a limited time opportunity. It's a limited time offer. Even if this is someone that's been in your like life in some way for a while, or is relatively speaking sort of like a constant presence, or there's nothing to indicate that it would be sort of temporary. It's just kind of like the aspect of how you're sitting in your life and in your reality right now. They're almost feeling that you're very tantalizing. And so if you're single at this point in time, you won't be for long. And so it's motivating them to kind of get up and apply strategy, but to not overthink, to not second guess anything, to kind of pounce on this opportunity, or to create an opportunity where what they have to present to you, what they have to offer, where it doesn't trigger fear or guardedness within you, because they're seeing you've leveled up. You're not going to like settle for breadcrumbs or just sort of settle for the first thing that comes along. It's almost like you've got standards, you've got discernment, you're working on something, you've worked on yourself, that you're requiring like a higher standard of individual, not someone who's lazy and complacent, but somebody who's willing to kind of put in the effort, put in the hard work to, strive towards excellence within themselves and in their life in general, to where it's like you've motivated this person to kind of get out of a rut or pick up the pace through which they are coming to a place within themselves of like, I don't just have something to offer somebody in a temporary sense or in a mediocre sense, but I'm bringing something of value to the table as a person in terms of how I'm living my life that would create almost like power couple vibes, or sort of like that the two of you could really be both a challenge and a support system for one another, and kind of like reaching bigger goals, reaching bigger dreams, or showing up in kind of a more mature or evolved way in terms of romance than they've done historically, or than they've done in quite some time. So let's see what else they think of you, and are they attracted to you. Okay, we have fire, passion, fog, veiled, and spring equinox, rebirth. Yeah, so there's that energy of they're very impressed with some kind of glow up, something that you're working on at this particular point in time, that it's almost like every time they see you, you're even more radiant, you're even more beautiful, or more handsome, you're even more vibrant. You almost seem to be turning back the hands of time. You appear to be getting like more younger, or like younger and more vital, and there's a sense of almost like, what's your secret? What is this kind of essence that you've tapped into within yourself? How did you come to this place of like self-love or self-motivation so profoundly that it has created this palpable effect, this noticeable change, that even if you see one another, relatively speaking, frequently, it's almost the volume is turned up on your vibration in a very pronounced way each and every time they see you, which is very, it's noticeable. It's made an impact. You've caught this person's attention. There's a sense of almost like they feel most comfortable kind of in this observer mode at this particular point in time, but there's a sense of like, I don't want to keep this hidden. I wouldn't want to make you feel like an option. So they may be like, if they had other kind of like situationships or people they were talking to or like loose ends in their life, there's a sense like, I got to wrap those things up before I approach you, before I say something, before I do something, that you are the type of person that wouldn't tolerate being juggled, that you wouldn't tolerate somebody like stuck on their ex or looking to just kind of fill the time and space with like a warm body. There's a sense of like they need to come prepared to go all the way with you, or your energy will just sort of push them out. There's a sense of like, I can't even get close to you unless I'm willing to move into a very devotional place where I'm willing to step towards you and then step closer and allow myself to be transformed by the experience of being in your presence, by something within me that has kind of come to life at the idea of you, or even just looking at you. It feels like eye contact between the two of you is very intense. It pulls back a curtain within them that kind of reveals higher potential, or maybe even kind of visions for the future. This person may see you as kind of like the one, or like a destined connection, or kind of like if you can earn a place in this person's life by not coming in with anything kind of cliche or manipulative, then you will come into a place of alignment with leading a very deeply satisfying life, not just in a temporary sense, but across all seasons of reality. There's a sense of you get more attractive with time, whatever it is that you're doing at this point. Maybe it's, routines or, habits that you've developed, even like a mindset that you've worked to kind of shift in some way, things you've invested yourself in as far as like abundance. That is reflecting in you in a very obvious way to this person. They feel deeply attracted to you, like mind, body, and soul. They're drawn to you. They're mesmerized by you. There's a sense of this person willingly going through the fire of self-transformation, if that meant accessing a place of relevance in your story moving forward. There's a sense of almost you've given life to kind of a bigger dream for this person, or you've clued them in on some kind of frequency of abundance that just by kind of directing their thoughts towards you, opening their mind, their heart, steps they're taking in their life to kind of create space for the germination of something between the two of you, all of that just screams abundance. It signals kind of like being in alignment with the best life in the here and now, not just kind of having pipe dreams or sitting around in the energy of woulda, coulda, shoulda, or, ruminating on the past. But it's almost like fresh start sort of energy, or sort of like, this is what all of the kind of ups and downs in life were preparation for. Like with the right person by your side, anything is possible. It's almost like you help to this person to explain parts of themselves that they'd struggled to find a use for, that they like overlooked or underutilized talents, gifts, and abilities, dreams that had been deferred, or things that they had kind of been very discouraged about, or maybe put to the side, or felt very kind of hopeless about, or very blocked about. There's a sense of like you've unblocked all of that. There's a renewed purpose within them. There's like an enthusiasm. I want to refresh myself so that I'm able to kind of meet you in this fresh energy, and together we can create something very beautiful between one another, and also in terms of how we support or encourage or educate one another, challenge one another as far as getting out of our own way in order to bring some of those deeper or more meaningful dreams out into a place of reality. It's almost like this is somebody who feels like the whole world could be against them, but with you by their side, they'd be a winner. They'd be the luckiest person in the world. It's almost like I'd be so lucky if you would consider me in a tender way. If you were to look at me with loving eyes, all would be well. Even on the darkest night, your light would help me to find my way through. So this definitely could be like a past life connection between the two of you, like past life soulmates. Possible it's even like twin flame energy, where if this is somebody that's, you've had connection and then there's been distance and maybe they've come back around, or could even be somebody just like watching from afar that's like looked you up online. It's almost like they're stunned. They're very blown away at this transformation within you. Time has only strengthened those wonderful qualities about you. It's brought out aspects of you that they couldn't see before. Over the course of time of just kind of being aware of you, they're seeing different facets of you, where if there were any doubt or uncertainty, or they were kind of blind to the nature of your energy or your essence or your presence before, this is someone who's very alert. They're very tapped in. They're very aware at this point. They can't ignore this. They couldn't ignore you if they tried at this particular point in time. So this again feels like somebody that is almost like there's a window of opportunity here, or I have the ability to create a window of opportunity. I can't miss this. I can't let this pass me by. I can't let somebody else come in and take what I feel is like my rightful place by your side. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. Okay, we have Fire Guardian, ignite your passions. And Arrow, surround yourself with protective energy. So interesting, we've got like fire and passion coming in twice. This is definitely speaking of almost like King of Wands, just like very determined, like I gotta have that, I gotta have you. And also like Knight of Wands, like a very fast moving energy. This crush may be getting ready to announce that, hey, I've got a crush on you, like a mutual crush sort of situation. But it feels like it might almost be something where you're kind of served playing hard to get. Like allow this person to sort of pursue you, to chase you, because there's the thrill of the chase at this point in time. If you make it easy for this individual, it almost feels like something that could be one of those, like it burns hot and heavy, and then it becomes very overwhelming and you're back in like a no contact, or it kind of fades out as quickly as it begins. So it's almost something where them taking a step towards you and you kind of taking a step back, it builds and incentivizes this person to pull out all the stops of not just leading with this highly sexually charged energy or this deep kind of like animal instinct they have towards you, but it's something that almost brings in more of that, I got to put in work. I got to rise to the occasion. I need to sort of exercise patience in this situation in order for it to kind of evolve into the biggest potential, like the actualization of the biggest potential which is possible here. Because this definitely could, again, with like this power energy, this could be like a power couple situation, but it's almost like you're in the lead in this situation, even though it feels like they are most likely the one to like take action first, or should be, to kind of like they're already making their way towards you. They've already kind of picked up on this and want to present themselves, but you're in the lead in terms of, they take a step towards you, you take a step and towards almost like the higher ground where they're rising to the occasion, led by your example. And in the process of that, it creates a firm foundation of like consistency, of patience, of recognizing that raw chemistry, but also building in a practical sense so that you're able to experience the fullness of this. So you don't deprive either of you of the opportunity, not just to have like, a situationship or like a pleasing kind of sexual connection with somebody, but something where you could actually establish like deep compatibility, deep roots with one another, a connection that could stand the test of time. All of that is here within the recipe of this energy, but based on all the enthusiasm that they have and the way in which they're just, I gotta have that, I gotta have that person. I'm tapped into this. I'm determined to move forward towards this individual, that it's almost like you need to be the one that is kind of then leading the way towards this, the energy of elevation, to continue to encourage this person to kind of take all that passion and distribute it in a way that leads to kind of not just immediate sort of gratification, but something that brings in the energy of endurance within the situation. So let's get some message cards and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say, I don't want to miss my chance with you. Yeah, so there's that confirmation of somebody who is determined to create progress within this situation. They don't just want to have this be a situation of like they waited and somebody else came along, or they were hesitant, or they let fears and doubts get in their way. It feels like even if there's something where they're kind of just watching you silently, they are making progress towards you. They're strategizing, they're planning, they're not just ruminating or like over intellectualizing. They may be energetically kind of pressing themselves towards you, figuring out a plan of action, or even taking steps, to kind of create more closeness between the two of you, increase the frequency of your interactions with one another, expand the nature of your communications with each other. Maybe this is even a situation of you've had some distance or silence, and it's like they're watching from the shadows, getting ready to kind of pounce and present that kind of that offer, that invitation, that opening up of the lines of communication, because there's a sense of like I can't help watching you, but I also can't stand the thought of watching you with somebody else. They also say, I want to talk to you. Yeah, so this is somebody who's getting ready to deepen your communication with one another, maybe the frequency and nature of what it is you talk about, or getting ready to like approach you for the first time, and almost like working up the courage to not just have it be one conversation, or if you're kind of like they approach and you take a step back, where they're going to be easily thwarted by that. It's almost like they know they have to put in work, they know they have to be prepared for whatever your response is, that it's something where they need to stay the course, that you're not the type of person, you're not the type of energy, you're not at the point in your life where you're going to chase anyone, or that you're going to make it easy for anyone either. So they got some work to put in, and it feels like they're up for the challenge, and are wanting to sooner rather than later kind of evolve the circumstance. They also say, I can't stop thinking of you. Yeah, so you've captivated their attention. You are their central focus at this point in time. If they had other people they were talking to, other situationships, or like exes, they've closed these things out, or they're tying up those loose ends, because there's a sense of, I want to devote myself to seeing what can happen between the two of us, rather than kind of dancing around among multiple different people, multiple different situations, or like keeping my options open. I want to see what happens when I move towards you with a very exclusive focus, and will that be the recipe for success between the two of us in this situation? So let's get some initials. Can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got L, F, Y, D, V, C, K, S, P, U, F, E, R, O, Y, A, V, and W. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.